Vos is a female assassin who secretly works for a company that provides assassination services on demand by using brain-important technology to enter one person's consciousness into another person and then gain control over the body, and then do what the customer requests to gain benefits for the company. Holly, a black girl, was one of the victims of body control that day. Holly plugged a device onto the top of her head and then rotated it. The knobs on the controller changed her face as the knobs were turned from cold to excited, then burst into tears. Then she followed her female colleagues in the service industry and entered the luxurious party, calmly looking around the room to discover the target. She needed to deal with it. She slowly chose a knife and walked in front of a big, fat old man. When he didn't take precautions, Holly immediately reached out to assassinate her. The target man fell to the floor and lay motionless. The screams of terror from the guests caused the whole party to become chaotic. Holly continued to stab the knife repeatedly and decisively into his neck and abdomen in an impossible way. Calmer now. The room was just her and the man lying in the blood. Holly took the pistol from her bag, loaded it and pointed it at her throat. The hand holding the gun began to tremble. Her face became tense. She was nervous as if torn between two thoughts. Then she burst into tears and took the gun out of her mouth. When the police appeared, it was too late. She needed to quickly eliminate this body by regaining her coolness. On her face she raised her arm and pointed the gun at the police. Immediately both sides pulled the trigger, resulting in a rain of bullets and falling down sobbing in her last breath. It turned out her possible handler, the black girl just now, is Vos. Now after completing the mission, Vos woke up in pain with each panting and vomited extremely tried. This is Vos, the secret agent of the company, who will assassinate the employee, directly participated in assassination mission according to the agreement between the company and the customer. After each mission, the female assassin must take a brain health test by identifying standardized objects. Before this, she was considered very carefully. If she continued, she could become a danger to the people around her. Everything was done and she returned to normal life with her husband and children, but it seemed she didn't, feeling comfortable in her own family but always lost in her own thoughts. She even had to practice saying words of love to her husband before going home. The memories of the massacre mission still lingered in her head. Standing in front of her husband, she imagined the scene of a knife stabbing into her husband's neck and blood gushing out like a waterfall. It seemed that gentle femininity was just a mask that she tried to force herself to put on. In the middle of the night, she called the company again. Tai said that she was ready to take on the next mission. Ignoring her husband's complaints about the work she was doing, she returned to the room where the woman wearing glasses talked to her about not to lose control and analyzing the next mission. The customer this time is Jonathan's stepson. He hired them to kill his father in order to usurp control of the largest data mining company outside of the United States to carry out the operation. This boss needs to control Colin, Ava's boyfriend and half-sister. The storyline is drawn as follows. Because Colin was dissatisfied with Ava's power in the receptionist, he fell into a state of depressed, then used demented drugs, killed Jonathan, then Ava, then committed suicide. As long as Ava is gone, all property inheritance rights will belong to him. As soon as he received the mission, Vos began monitoring all of his activities. Colin waited until he was on his way to the airport, then kidnapped him and brought him back to the center. At this time, the medical staff of the company that Vos was working for put a device in Colin's head that made his consciousness disappear. He became weak and lost control of his body. At the same time, Vos in the closet was supported by technology that helped her put her consciousness into Colin's body and take control of it. Colin's body, she learns to get used to a strange body because of the male parts on Vos' body. She learns to speak and act exactly like the real Colin, and she also has to endure pain in her lower abdomen because of the muscle. Colin's body is inflamed. This time, Vos' consciousness seems not strong and alert enough because she just went through a mission with Holly. Furthermore, she doesn't have much rest time. Vos' new body is at risk of being pushed many times, going out, especially at times when emotions were high, like when Colin's body roasted potatoes with Ava. However, with this passion for violent work, she did not allow herself to stop. She even lied to the company that he was still doing well in gaining control. One evening, Vos used Colin's body to go with Ava to Jusoo party. The soon-to-be married couple came to greet Joe, but John responded with sarcastic words, and the contempt for Colin's couldn't be more reasonable. Vos used Colin's body to pretend to be drunk, then appeared dissatisfied and caused trouble at the party. He asked John to apologize for his disdain for him, but John refused, appeared unconcerned. Colin cursed loudly and then attacked a party guest who immediately stopped him. Colin was taken out of the building by the party's bodyguard after the party ended, returned to Zone Villa, and then provoked and attacked Zone with barbaric actions, the first being a knife slashing a long mark on Zone's neck, causing him to collapse on the floor and struggle until Vos used an iron bar to repeatedly stab him. Zone's blood-stained body was filled with satisfaction. Finally, she used that iron bar to skewer his throat, causing blood to spurt out like a volcano. Her face gradually deformed and was flooded with blood. As soon as Ava discovered this terrible scene, she was extremely scared. Vos was still cold, he raised the gun towards Ava, causing her to panic and turn around to run away, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't avoid the bullets from Vos' gun. The female assassin walked towards the target. Seeing with my own eyes the target staggered and then collapsed, then fired a few more shots to make sure the target was no longer breathing, confirming that Ava was dead. Vos also put the gun to his throat. I was actually Colin's throat, but it was a once again, she couldn't squeeze it as planned because Colin's consciousness had risen to prevent her from doing so. After a long battle between the two streams of consciousness inside Colin's body, Colin's hand used a piece of glass to destroying the device that was plugged into her head caused the connection signal from Colin's body to be expelled to Vos' body at the control center. That action several damaged Vos' body, trapping her soul, trapped in Colin's body and unable to escape to finish the mission. Colin's soul is stronger than ever. He sees the memories of both people intertwined with each other and regains control of Colin's body. Came to find his ex-girlfriend, Rita, to ask for shelter for a few days. However, unexpectedly, Vos took control of Colin's body and used a gun to kill the homeowner. The violent desire in this girl. La Votn, found love. The situation became more complicated, so the company was no longer connected to Vos' soul. The company sent Eddie, Colin's collaborator and close friend, to help Vos. At this time, Eddie used a brain implant controller to controlling Colin's soul ability to help Vos' soul prevail in a trance. When Vos saw Colin attacking her, she was scared and her face also began to deform. However, in reality, it was very different until Colin, when he regained control of his body, he realized he was pointing a gun at his throat. He looked down in horror at his blood-soaked hands and was panicked when he discovered Eddie lying on the floor, followed by Rita in Colin's bathrooms. Trembling, he walked step by step in Rita's bedroom and kept cursing in disgust. He pointed the gun at his head and squeezed, but the bullet missed the next mirror. Until now both Colin and Vos are still trapped inside. The same Colin's body lay in pain and cried like a child because he was helpless. As he continuously witnessed his relatives and friends die, all because of his hands, the horrifying memories of the massacre kept appearing and tormenting him, made him feel guilty. In the meantime, the image of a strange boy also suddenly appeared in his mind. The next day when wandering on, he accidentally met a boy. Colin asked the boy's name and realized that he was a boy. Vos' son was suddenly pleased with the new thoughts in his head. That night, Colin went to look for Vos and met her husband, Michael. He was invited into the house to eat bon nuoc. But suddenly he pointed a gun at his head. Michael tried to threaten Vos and asked her to get out of his body and explain the reason for everything that had happened, but she only replied that I'm done with you, and at the same time asserted herself. She was the one who was behind and controlled all his actions recently. Colin continued to ask Vos to correct his mistake, or else he would kill Michael to clear his debt. He thought this trick would work, but it didn't. Vos didn't. Shook and calmly told Colin to keep doing that. While the two were busy questioning each other, Michael took the opportunity to steal the gun from Colin's hand. The husband clumsily loaded the bullet and then squeezed it. However, the bullet flew astray. At that moment, Colin grabbed a knife and cut off Michael's hand, then he rushed to slash Michael crazily. A scene that was truly horrifying and not intended for the faint of heart. Was it Colin or was it Vos who once again killed someone? And this time, the body also hesitated when raising the gun barrel his throat. When Colin sat down crying and then lowered the gun, suddenly a knife stabbed into his neck, causing blood to spurt out. Looking at the clothes he was wearing, Colin reflexively turned to shoot the person who had just attacked him. He did not expect that the perpetrator was Vos' son Ira. The strange thing was that the AA boy did not show any fear at the scene that had just happened. Before he died, the boy Ira mumbled back the words that pulled me away, creating suspicious that the boy himself was the victim was losing control her body. So when Colin died, Vos' soul complicated its mission and returned to its owner body. She woke up tired because she had just gone through a long journey, full of excitement. However, this time she was not alone lying near her. There was also the woman wearing glasses who guided her in this job, who had also just returned from astral journey. So we can guess the person who takes control of the boy Ira is the woman wearing the sign. The end of the movie is a scene where V repeat the object recognition test like last time. She is completely calm, completely alert, and exactly the content of today's movie. Now this is the end. Thank you for your interest in watching. See you all in the next video on the channel.